The most important aspect, from a sociological standpoint, in the modern world today is the importance of communication. Specifically, being able to discuss topics with those whom you disagree with. It is becoming more and more difficult every day to be able to have a conversation with someone. And the reason for this is due to generalizations, falsehoods, and lies. Many people actually like it this way. They are tired of, as they see it, being forced to work with someone that they disagree with on a philosophical level. And there is some evidence to reinforce this behavior, especially when those you disagree with berate you with the intention of attacking not only your belief structure, but your integrity as well. This philosophical battle between the left and the right is no longer delegated to political positions that define them, but to their character as a whole. It is because of this mentality that we are seeing groups that oppose each other devolve into physical violence. Some people want this to happen because they know, not feel, but know that they are correct, and they are willing to fight against anyone that questions their philosophy. But the problem with this behavior is that it contradicts the sociological structure that keeps a society functioning on a normal, optimal level. A common mythological sentiment, characterized primarily in Taoism, but shared by Christianity, Judaism, Islam, atheism, and other belief structures, is the idea of the world residing in two particular metaphysical structures, order and chaos. I won't go too in-depth into how these entities relate to order and chaos in their own specific way, but if you're interested in diving further into this topic, then I highly recommend watching the lecture Reality and the Sacred by Jordan B. Peterson. He can explain it far better than I can, and that particular lecture of his is very profound. But to get on with the video, a person should not completely live in one of those structures, i.e. order and chaos. They should live in both, or rather have a foot in both. Chaos is self-explanatory. Chaos manifests itself in numerous ways. Maybe you're going through a divorce, or you're unemployed, or you're depressed, or your dog died, or you're having trouble at school. The list goes on and on. There are dozens of scenarios in which chaos manifests itself. However, living in order has its problems as well, because when you're only in order, there is nothing new for you to experience. Everything you hear and see is a repeat of what you already know, what you've already heard, and what you've already seen. There is nothing of interest to you. This is the state that fascists desire. This is the state that Communist Russia and Mao's China desired. This is the utopian viewpoint that has led to deaths of millions of individuals. It's a delusion of grandeur that manifests itself in a utopian viewpoint. And what happens to those who question the utopian viewpoint? They get executed. To this regard, living only in order can be much worse than living in chaos. The utopian view of communism led to the death of over 100 million people. Millions have died by refraining from subjugating themselves with the utopian philosophy of the particular country that they lived in. Dissenters were tortured, hanged, shot, all because they questioned the righteousness of the state and the philosophy the state was enforcing on the people. But you're probably wondering, how does this tie in with generalizations people make regarding political philosophies they oppose? Well, generalizations are presuppositions. Presuppositions are prejudices. It is voluntary segregation where you have determined who is right and who is wrong without even trying to understand another person's point of view. This behavior is synonymous with the utopian order, and the idea of order is associated with the idea of selective communication. That is, who we choose to converse with. The most obvious example is the idea of an echo chamber, where an individual only associates with those that have the same presuppositions. And as I stated above, this type of order represents nothing new for them, and it doesn't help them at all besides reinforcing their own presuppositions and prejudices. But leaving their echo chamber can be scary for them, since they are removing themselves from their comfort zone. They begin to process new information unaccustomed to them, and that's scary for some people, because people would rather believe they're right than discover they're wrong. So they remain in their comfort zone, so they don't have to experience that. And they may not even realize they're doing this. It could be their subconscious trying to protect them from being wrong. Because if they discover they're wrong, then they're not sure how to behave anymore. What was comfortable for them disappears, and they are left with confusion and uncertainty. And that is how the descent into chaos begins. Because uncertainty can lead to anxiety. Anxiety can lead to depression, and a chain reaction is created. But if you understand and acknowledge that your previous outlook of the world was incorrect, and you accept this voluntarily, and face that reality head on, then you no longer descend into chaos, and you evolve and become stronger in the process, since your capacity to accept change is more pronounced, and you're no longer ignorant. You no longer have to reside in your echo chamber. And even if you go out of your echo chamber, speak with people whom you disagree with, yet still retain your beliefs, then you still have evolved, because this means you were willing to face the reality that you could have been wrong in your beliefs, and now you're no longer ignorant. So I want to try to debunk some of the prominent generalizations we hear in the world today, because until these claims are exposed as falsehoods, you will not see any type of confluence between those with dissimilar views. Regardless of political affiliation, the foundation of society is predicated upon the free flow of ideas. Ignoring dissenting viewpoints strictly because of your personal biases that are predicated upon false generalizations only reinforces the notion of the utopian viewpoint, and it is because of these generalizations that the polarization between individuals will only increase. So let's go over 7 popular generalizations. Number 2. If you question Jewish influence in America, you are alt-right, and conversely, everyone in the alt-right hates Jews. Again, these are presuppositions based on the view of a few. I have done quite extensive research into the alt-right, and it is rare for me to come across a group of alt-righters who hate all Jews. To claim that the alt-right are anti-Jewish, and conversely, those who question Jewish or Zionist influence are alt-right, lacks supporting data. Number 3. Everyone on the left is the same. I tend to break the left up into 3 categories: progressives, Democrats, and regressives, also known as leftists. Regressives, aka leftists, are a subgroup of the left in which social justice warriors reside, where the hardcore feminists like Linda Sarsour reside, where safe space advocates reside. Democrats are what we've had in Congress for some years past. They believe in corporate America. They believe in Obamacare, but not universal health care. They have leftist tendencies, but are not progressive since they want to continue the status quo, rather than try to cultivate new progression for the country. Dianne Feinstein would be an example of a Democrat. And though I disagree with many aspects of the progressive ideology, I find that I can converse with progressives in a cordial manner, something I can't do with regressives. Jamarl Thomas would be one example of a progressive who I chatted with in the past and who I was able to find similarities with despite our differences in terms of political policy. And even if you don't agree with the subgroups I put the left in, you should be able to infer the difference between an SJW and someone like H.A. Goodman. Not everyone on the left is a representation of social justice warriors. Number 4. All conservatives are religious and defy the theory of evolution. This is another generalization that people make that lacks evidence. You can find many religious conservatives that are open to the discussion of evolution and other scientific endeavors. Number 5. If you disagree with universal health care, it is because you don't care about the poor, sick, and the needy. This is a talking point we hear quite often that is primarily directed toward the right, and it also lacks substance. If one were to sit down and actually discuss universal health care with someone who opposes it, they would discover that that person believes everyone should have health care, they just disagree on the best way to deliver it. This should not characterize them as inhumane or misanthropic. They just have a different belief on how best to help the general populace. Number 6. Republicans only care about the rich. This is another popular generalization that isn't true. Democrats have just as many corporate donors than Republicans do. Both parties are synonymous in terms of benefiting from the rich. And number 7. If you don't want DACA, it is because you are a racist. And conversely, wanting a wall is racist. This claim is one of the more shocking obscenities. We know things have really changed when standing up for the laws of a country and wanting to protect American citizens by protecting the border is deemed as racist. It still blows my mind that wanting border security appears to be the new aggregate used in deducing who is racist and who is altruistic. If we were to use this aggregate retroactively, then Bill Clinton, Obama, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and countless others would be racist since they all voted on the Secure Fence Act of 2006, and Bill Clinton pushed for a wall in one of his State of the Union addresses. These are just a handful of generalizations that most people see or hear on a regular basis. Again, I really need to clarify something because if I don't, there could be some people who feel justified that this video attempting to debunk generalizations can be easily refuted. And what I want to clarify is that we can't base a group's political inclinations based on the beliefs of a few. Lavrenti Beria, head of Stalin's secret police, said, quote, "Show me the man and I'll show you the crime." What this quote means is that everyone is guilty of something. everyone has done or said something that could be construed as unethical, immoral, and even illegal. Some people are just worse than others. Some people are just bad people. And since we as humans have the capacity to do bad things, our reprehensible statements and or actions should not be a reflection of the political party we ascribe to, but rather, it should be a reflection of us as individuals and nothing more. Unless a political party adds reprehensible policies to its political platform, which would then announce to everyone what the party stands for, all reprehensible actions should be delegated to the individual and not the party he or she ascribes to. There are bad people in the Republican Party. There are bad people in the Democrat Party. But just because there may be a few rotten apples in the basket, that doesn't mean that all the apples are rotten. So in conclusion, you should always be willing to discuss your beliefs. You should always be willing to defend your beliefs from those who attack you. The free flow of ideas is imperative for a society to function properly. It's important to talk with those who have similar views, but it's even more important to talk with those with dissimilar views. Keep an open mind. Ignore your presuppositions. Don't assume a person is bad just because an associate of his or her is bad. Because in the end, everyone has the capacity to change their beliefs, and everyone should be open to the possibility that what they believe now could be wrong in the future. If you like what you see here, please share the video and consider subscribing and being a patron. The Piper Report is an alternative news source that reports on news you won't hear from the corporate media, and a special thanks to my patrons. And I'm done.
We're in a mark, so I was out, and now we're on